Welcome back. A new report paints a pretty bad picture for people in their golden years in our state. The problem? Seniors don't have enough money saved up.
After spending her life teaching, Louise Milholland is enjoying retirement. She spends a lot of time at the Palo Duro Senior Center in Albuquerque. She loves to participate in things like this doggy fashion show.
When you're retired, you don't have the funds to do a lot of things.
She also volunteers at the Senior Center Library.
The secret of retirement is don't sit on your tush. Get with it. Move. Do stuff. Enjoy life.
But even now, she's thinking about making a change.
Right now, I'm considering going back to work.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, New Mexico is among the top 3 states in the country for seniors living in poverty, with about 12% living in poverty here. That's higher than the national average at 9%. UNM researchers say that 2 out of 3 private sector workers have no money saved for retirement, and 80% have less than $10,000 saved.
We see a tip of an iceberg of people who really just don't have the resources, whether it's from not saving enough or less than they expected from Social Security or a pension, to really have a comfortable retirement.
Clarissa Krinsky with Clara Financial says everywhere senior citizens are working longer. KOB highlighted how the Labor Department says we live in a time when seniors are competing for jobs once stacked with teenagers, like fast food joints.
All of these systems were sort of created when we lived to be in our 70s, and now that we live to be 90, a lot of folks are going to want to or need to work later in their life. And for a lot of people, it's great. It keeps them healthy and active. It's their social life. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
So how much money is it going to take to retire? Well, that depends.
Someone who wants to spend $20,000 a year in retirement has to have a lot less saved than someone who wants to spend $100,000 in retirement.
Generally, the rule of thumb is to save 15% of your income for retirement. But last month, a professor from an Ivy League school suggested that millennials save 40% of their income. The professor cites inflation and low returns on investment predictions.
One thing I would tell people is you have to kind of get rid of the idea of your retirement age. You're able to retire when you can afford to retire, and that really is kind of irrespective of how old you are.
For Louise, she hasn't decided if she'll go back to teaching, but it is still an option. However, her word of advice for younger folks?
Save as much money as you can, because you're going to need every dime of it.
I'm Colton Schoen, KOB4. All right, so the takeaways there: if you're older and don't have enough money, you might want to work until you're no longer able to health-wise. But if you're still a ways off from retiring, investing in IRAs or Roth IRAs, if your work doesn't have a 401k retirement plan, could be a good thing. Also, live below your means. So when we were watching the story here, this paints one of those like eye-opening pictures for New Mexico. We're seeing this.
We are. And I've been in practice about 32 years here in New Mexico, and so we see that. We see that in the people that we visit with. And in our firm, we do a lot of educational outreach. We go to community colleges. We go to community centers. We've been in various places to just give financial education to retirees, pre-retirees. That's a major focus of our practice.
When it comes to those who are at the cusp of retiring or already in retirement and don't have money saved up, the report said people have about $10,000 or less saved up to get to retirement. What do they do?
Well, when you have that little of a foundation to fall back on, you hope. That's what you do.
Right.
You hope and you skimp and you look for assistance. And there are various programs out there to assist medically and in other ways. You've got Social Security, but Social Security was never created to be the sole retirement plan. It was there as a supplement, and unfortunately, some people, that's all they have.
And we've seen the work environment change as well, from people sticking with the company with a pension for their entire lives, with people job hopping from here to here and not contributing to their 401ks.
That's the big challenge. Is years back, you went to work, you did your 20, 30, 40 years, you had a pension. Pensions are hard to find anymore. They are a disappearing benefit, primarily because they're so expensive for the employer to fund and to guarantee. And so they've taken all of that retirement and put it on the shoulders of the employee in the way of a 401k or TSP or some other type of retirement plan and said, good luck. work. Here it is. Have fun. Well, without the discipline, without the coaching, and without the management that needs to go along with that, you're on your own. And if we have a collapse like we did in 08 or 01, for those of us that are a little bit older, we remember that. And, you know, when your 401k becomes a 201k because it just got cut in half, my goodness, what do you do? And so that really wakes you up. So you got to pay attention to what phase of life are you in. If you're in your 20s and 30s, you got plenty of time to accumulate and absorb those ups and downs. When you get into your 40s and 50s, you need to start, we're still accumulating, and for many of us, that's our largest earning years of our life. And so, boy, pack it in. But then in the 50s and above, you got to start thinking more preservation. Losses kill portfolios. And so you've got to be very careful about those loss exposures as you get older and start thinking more preservation. So accumulation, preservation, and then ultimately in your 60s, 70s, and 80s, distribution planning. You've got to be smart about your distribution planning, budgeting, and market exposures.
Yeah. When you do these workshops for people at these community centers, is this something that they're hearing for the first time when you speak about this, or are they kind of exposed to this kind of mentality beforehand? Yeah,
I mean, the majority of them are familiar, just don't know how to execute it.
Right.
They're like, yeah, I've heard that's a good idea and I'm aware of it, but what do I do? Yeah. What do I do? And so they're looking for a financial coach. They're looking for a resource because there's so much information out there, but it's like, well, how do you know what's really the right fit for you? And so I encourage people to really, as they get into their 50s and 60s and beyond, and even earlier, assemble a team, what I call a dream team. Start, identifying a good legal resource for you. You need to do your estate planning, will, trust, power of attorney, that kind of thing. Make sure you have some good legal resource there, face-to-face or even online. There's great resources. Make sure you got a good tax planner, a CPA, somebody like that can be part of your team. A good financial advisor, financial coach to be there to help you with financial decisions. And then, of course, in the older ages, we got to pay attention to Social Security strategies, long-term care, protect your wealth from poor health, and then, of course, Medicare-type planning for, health insurance type things. So assemble a team and use that team to help you to have that financial success and peace of mind.
Right.